This new painting is called 2 a.m. Talks, and it's about those long nights you end at different diners and late night spots like Denny's and IHOP and things like that after a long night of socializing and having fun and new experiences. And I feel like the best part of these kinds of nights is that you don't always wind up at them with just your friends that you know, but new people and new experiences. And I feel like at these kind of spots, you also, at the end of the night, wind up with these like new revelations, these epiphanies that happen like after everything's calmed down and you've run around all over the place and you're just now at this like stillness with somebody new. It's these kind of new experiences that really give me more inspiration and passion, and not just that, but the motivation to make something new. And I mentioned before in my last video that we don't always have that motivation and the energy to create something, and this can be for a lot of different reasons. In my case, a lot of the times it's because of the mental illness that I manage on a regular basis. And sometimes I get into a low. Right now I'm in a low. And when that happens, I have to kind of mitigate like, okay, what can I do today? What can I manage today and feel accomplished? And I always want to get the self-care stuff like handled first. So that means that I'm eating, that I'm resting and sleeping, that I'm taking a shower, that I am just making sure that I am taken care of first before I try to do anything else. And sometimes that's all I have the spoons for that day, is just taking care of myself. And I have to trust the process and have faith that I have the time to leave my work for the next day, because I need to take care of myself first. I need to be able to sleep and rest and have that energy reserved for that at least. So sometimes I'll like set up my space so that I'm ready to paint or work on something the following day. And I'll have everything laid out so that I can just sit down and get straight to it after my self-care stuff is done. And I always make sure that I'm like comfortable. So I've eaten, I'm like all ready for the day, and then I can start working on that new thing and just be okay with whatever that is. Like, it doesn't have to be a masterpiece. It doesn't have to be something, out of this world. I just need to like work on something. And I always say that like you have to get your 100 ugly paintings out of the way before you get to like the masterpieces and the really amazing work. And I feel like done a lot of really nice pieces over the past year. And now with this low, I'm trying to get more things out and just keep things going and moving along. And I'm now waiting for that next like really amazing piece to hit again. And I feel like the last couple pieces were really nice, and I'm trying to get back in the groove of things and like making on a regular basis, because I haven't been painting regularly as much as I was like say last month or a couple months before, because this past month I've just been in that low and trying to mediate my energy. I think the main thing with motivation is that you have to create a safe space for yourself to be okay with whatever you can handle at the moment, and know that there is another time that you'll be able to sit down and work. So you're not beating yourself up about it in the moment or like when you can't handle it. And just knowing that you do have a plan, you have a routine that you're trying to stick with, and that's part of the discipline. So you have your routine that you try to stick with the knowledge that you are navigating like your energy and your capacity for that day. So you have your okay, so say one day you are in a low and you have a lot of other things that you have to get done. That's not your work, that's not self-care, but you do have to get the self-care done first. You have to get that other work out of the way. And then at the end of the day, you're probably tired and you're already at a point where you need to wind down and get some rest. That doesn't mean that you don't want to take that day as a loss for your work. You just want to say, this is what I had to do today, and tomorrow I'm going to make space for myself. And if you keep making your creative practice a safe space that way, then it's a lot easier to come back to when you have the spoons for it. And it's okay if, today, tomorrow, you don't have the energy to make your art. It's okay. It doesn't make you not an artist. It doesn't mean that you failed. It means that you didn't have you just didn't have the energy for that day. You didn't have enough time, period. And you need to move forward and look toward the next day to see where you can make space for that time to yourself to make something. I feel like a lot of times we wind up feeling guilty if we replace that time with something else. But if you look at it from the perspective that like your experiences also inform your art, sometimes it's necessary to go out and kind of shake things up and do something different, especially if you're in kind of a rut and you can't get yourself to sit down and do the thing. So sometimes I'm not feeling the motivation to paint something or draw something or write anything, but I have this yearning, this craving to connect with somebody or have a new experience. So that means that I need to go out and network and talk to people and have that new experience, see this new thing, and relax somewhere outside of my usual setting, outside of my house, out in the world, and get that feeling, get into the groove of that moment so that I can feel my way back to the studio, back to my chair, back to painting and drawing this new experience that I had, this new perspective that I've walked into. Everybody's different, so maybe your thing isn't going out and talking to people, but maybe it's just a different type of vibe that you're looking for. Like maybe you need to sit down and go through your playlist and listen to music, or maybe you need to set your space up a different way. Maybe you need a routine in switching gears. So maybe, you light a candle or some incense or you play a certain song, and that means it's time to start working, and you move into this next transition that way. Everybody has their own different, style of moving into their creative practice, their creative workspace. And it's just like anything else where, when you first wake up, you have your wake up routine, your morning routine, your routine to go to bed. This is exactly the same thing. You need to make a certain practice out of, switching into that mode of I'm going to create something now, and this is how I get into that mode. We can't all just jump into it we can't all just jump into this, we can't all just jump into work. We can't all just jump into straight into our creative practice. Sometimes it takes a little bit of coaxing and comfort, a certain level of comfort to get into that space. and into that mindset of creating. How do you invite the creative juices to start rolling, to start moving, to get inspired and motivated? You just like you dabble in trying to find your style, you need to dabble in working on, how do I inspire myself? How do I get myself into this? How do I get myself motivated to transition into the next thing? And if you're really in a deep low, like you can't get out of bed, you can't get off the couch type of thing after a long day, or after you've done your self-care or your regular work routine, then sometimes it means that you change your practice up. So you need to start out small. You need a small sketchbook that you take to the couch, you take to the bed, and you just doodle. You just draw whatever comes to mind. You just, sketch out ideas that you have from memory. You draw out different ideas. You write them out in your sketchbook. Just start out small. And maybe you usually paint, but now maybe you transition into just using pencil and marker and things that you can use like at a desk or in your bed, so that it makes it easier to make something, but it doesn't have to be a completed thing. And when you have the energy next time, over the next like days or weeks or even months, you can come back to these ideas and be like, oh, that actually might make a really good painting, and draw from the things that you were messing around with before. These are just some of the ways that I've dealt with my own depression, my own depressive states, and they last anywhere between a few days to like a couple months. And I still create things during that time, but that's also why my style isn't super consistent, or like it's not always the same, because it just depends on how much energy I have, how long I can sit at the desk, how long I can go like in one instance creating, and how long that piece keeps my attention, because I don't always stay on one piece. So if I start on something and I'm painting it or I'm drawing it and I lose interest, I don't always come back to it. I'll just start on a new thing, because that's the old energy, and now I'm going on to the new one. And I don't think there's too much of a problem with that, because maybe I'm not gonna lie, like I probably won't ever go back to that old piece, because it was just something that I was trying to use to get into the groove of things, and I'll just move on to the next thing. But I don't think there's an issue with that, because it's just trying to another way to tap into that motivation, that the creative juices. So this new painting is available on my website as a print. It's 8.5 by 11 on cardstock. If you'd like to order one, you can go to elisapaints.com. I just want to thank you for subscribing and following in my journey, alchemizing my grief through art as I transition through this time. And if you want to keep up to date on how I'm doing, what I'm doing, where I'm going with it, you can subscribe. You can follow my newsletter on my website, so you can get updates on when new stuff comes out. I'm thinking about making a Patreon. If you guys have any ideas or advice about Patreon, let me know.